Tijuana was once known as a center of culture, arts, and literature. Today, only remnants of its historic beauty are present, and the city has become a place of tourism, service industry, and manufacturing. During our tour, we were able to see a number of sites, but our focus was not on Tijuana's tourism or service industry. It was on the Maquiladoras. Maquiladoras are factories and assembly centers of foreign companies operating in Mexico under the Mexico-United States agreement called Maquiladora Program. Most Maquiladora programs are U.S. companies, but corporations from Europe, Japan, South Korea, and even China, the sweatshop capital of the world, operate Maquiladoras in Tijuana, just a few miles south of San Diego, California. In Maquiladoras today, human rights of workers are frequently not respected. Such simple things like going to the bathroom and drinking water are not permitted for workers in order to speed production and increase efficiency. Labor rights are not respected. The Mexican labor laws are rarely followed, even if they do in fact exist. The health and safety of the workers is at high risk. Unsafe working conditions often result in labor accidents. Exposure to toxic chemicals often causes industrial diseases. Environmental laws are frequently not respected as the factories continue to pollute the air, water, and land. The wages are not enough to meet the basic needs of families. Living in shanty homes in slum communities are the reality of many of the children, of whom most will never get an education because of the lack of funding, space, and resources. Women's rights are not respected. Sexual harassment and sanctions for being pregnant are normal in many factories.
Mexican workers have rights as stated in the Mexican Constitution, and the Mexican federal labor law contains specific labor rights, and in many cases, Mexican labor law is more favorable than is U.S. labor law. Mexican workers' rights include sustainable wages to maintain a family and provide education for children, maximum 8-hour work shifts, 48 hours per week, and voluntary overtime paid double and triple, a free day with pay after 6 working days. It is illegal to hire children under 14, pregnancy paid leave of absence for 12 weeks, then 1 hour every day for breastfeeding. Security, protection, and training. Employers are responsible for labor accidents and diseases. Employees are allowed to stop working if a risky, unhealthy, inappropriate, or unethical task is assigned. Workers' compensation is paid when labor-related accidents and/or sickness occurs. Right to have a collective contract, collective bargaining, unions, and coalitions, and the right to go on strike. When workers go on strike, the company's production and all other activities have to stop until the strike is over. Job security. This means employees must be hired full-time, 100% benefits since the first working day. For most jobs, hiring part-time is legal under Mexican law. Employees must receive a contract in which labor conditions like schedule, location, and assignments are specified. The employer cannot change these conditions if the employee does not agree. Beginning with the first working day, employees must receive complete medical insurance for themselves and their families and to sick leave days. After a year, they are entitled to paid vacations and 2 bonuses per year. The employer cannot lay off a worker without a precise justified reason. Otherwise, a severance packet must be paid and includes 3 months' salary plus 20 days per each year worked. If the company refuses to pay, the employee can bring suit against the company. If the employee wins, the company must pay all the salaries from the day the worker was laid off to the day the suit ends. A worker has the right to rescind the contract and receive a severance payment if the employer violates his or her rights. Labor laws are not enforced in Mexico. Enormous competition for getting a job and government inefficiency and corruption undermine legal rights. Combined, unemployment and underemployment account for 40% of the Mexican labor force. The laws are only respected when workers stand up for their rights. Some obstacles follow. Workers have to challenge multinational corporations like Sony or General Electric that often have more power in general than the Mexican government. The Maquiladora companies largely control the government labor department. Therefore, the labor department usually sides with the employer. Government and the companies are on the same team. The Maquiladora management controls the unions. In most cases, the union is actually a part of the company's management. Most Tijuana Maquiladora workers are immigrants from Central Mexico and Central America with no experience in industrial jobs. Most are working women, many of them mothers or single mothers without extended families and support.
The Maquiladora program was initiated in 1964, but the number of maquiladoras boomed after 1994, when NAFTA went into effect. Before maquiladoras, companies did not respect many labor rights. However, NAFTA and the maquiladoras worsened labor conditions in Mexico. NAFTA resulted in putting out of business much of the Mexican agricultural sector, causing widespread unemployment and migration. NAFTA and maquiladoras have undermined and in fact rejected key Mexican labor laws that used to be respected. Maquiladoras have increased Mexican industrial productivity to US and Japanese standards without increasing the wages. The result has been extraordinary profits, but also extraordinary levels of pollution, misery, death, and stress. NAFTA and maquiladoras have made the Mexican industry and the economy extremely vulnerable to the world economic oscillations, and especially to US recessions. Since the current US recession began, 40,000 maquiladora jobs have been lost in Tijuana, and the wages have decreased even 50%. Almost 40% of all Tijuana jobs are in maquiladora. Even university students work in the production lines. Other options is to cross the border and work in San Diego, but it is not available for everybody. Small business operated as a cooperative is also an option. Of the 66 documented toxic waste sites in the Mexican border states, the most infamous is Tijuana's Metales y Derivados, a US-owned maquiladora factory that recycled batteries imported from the US. The owner, Jose Con, fled across the border when the maquiladora was shut down in 1994 after community reports of health problems and repeated violations of environmental law documented by the Mexican government. Mr. Con left behind 23,000 tons of mixed contaminated waste, including 7,000 tons of lead slag, exposed to the elements and threatening workers and families living in the adjacent Tijuana neighborhood of Colonio Chilpancingo.